Today, I'm going to show you how to add in-app subscriptions to your app using RevenueCat, one of the most loved tools in the iOS community, and in my opinion, the best way to implement in-app purchases. We're going to do this with version 4 of the SDK and this SwiftUI demo app that I created, a mock meditation app. Shout out and thank you to the RevenueCat team for sponsoring this tutorial. So here's what we're trying to do. I want this app to be able to detect if the user has a subscription. If they don't, then when they tap on a subscription, I want to show a paywall and I want to be able to list the different subscription options. I want to implement the ability for the user to purchase a subscription. And when they do, I want this app to detect that they do have a subscription. It will no longer show this and they will be able to click through to these cards. And plus, when they click on this tab, it will show that they are a paid member. Here's how we're going to do this in broadly 4 steps. Now imagine at the top here, you have your app user, which is using your app, which is built from your Xcode project. Step 1 is creating a RevenueCat account if you don't have one, which is free. Number 2, we're going to go over to Apple's App Store Connect portal, and we're going to configure the actual subscription products that the user is going to buy. Step 3 is we're going back to RevenueCat and we're going to specify how we want to present those products to the users and what sort of access level those products should unlock. We do this by configuring entitlements and offerings, and you'll learn more about those later. Step number 4 is we're going to add the RevenueCat SDK to our Xcode project, which does all of the heavy lifting so we can write very little code in order to display our products and process transactions. Now I know what you're thinking. Why do we use this RevenueCat layer? Why not just use the StoreKit framework and access the App Store Connect products directly? Well, for one, StoreKit is notoriously hard to use, as many developers can attest to. RevenueCat makes implementing in-app subscriptions much faster and easier. Another thing is that this RevenueCat layer allows you to dynamically present different offerings to the user and to run pricing experiments, all without submitting a new app update. And if your app is available on multiple platforms, you can persist the user's subscription status across all the platforms and also get a broader view of your analytics spanning multiple platforms. Now, those are just a couple of benefits off the top of my head. Oh, and by the way, they have an awesome QuickStart documentation guide, which is what this video is based off of. And they also have a SwiftUI demo app that you can look at for reference. Link to those 2 things in the video description. All right, let's dive in. Now, if you don't have a free RevenueCat account yet, open your browser and type in codewithchris.com/rcat. And then what you're going to do is hit this sign up button right here and create your free account. Now, I don't get compensated for this in any way, but it will let the folks over at RevenueCat know that we want to see more RevenueCat tutorials. Now, after you create your account, you're going to be greeted by this screen. Now, here you're going to be asked to set up your new project. You can give it the name of your app. Now, a project doesn't represent a single app. Instead, it represents your product, which might have an app on multiple platforms. For example, you might have an iOS version, an Android version, and maybe a web app that uses Stripe. If a user buys a subscription, you'd want the app to recognize that no matter what platform the user is currently on, right? Well, RevenueCat can help you do that if you put them all into the same project. Now, this is my RevenueCat account. I am going to create a brand new project just so we can use it for this demo here. So I'm going to call it CWC Meditate. And what we need to do is select what platform we're using, and that's going to be App Store for us. We're going to give it an app name. You don't need to fill out anything else for now. So let's just call this that, or save it. Now let's head on over to the Apple App Store Connect portal. Now for this part, you're going to need an Apple Developer Program membership because you need to access the App Store Connect portal where you configure your app and your subscription products. Now here's a pro tip. Make sure that you've signed the latest paid applications agreement because otherwise you won't be able to use the in-app purchases and you won't be able to get this working even for testing purposes. If you see any warnings on your App Store Connect dashboard or in your agreements, tax, and banking module, then you're going to want to resolve those, especially if it pertains to your paid applications agreement. And even if you have signed this in the past, sometimes Apple updates it and you're going to need to agree to it and approve it again. So this is my App Store Connect portal. Let's go into My Apps. And we're going to add a brand new app to represent this CWC Meditate demo that we have. So let's click on New App, and let's call this Meditate. Let's choose iOS. We'll choose English, and then the bundle ID is going to be that one right there. And sure, let's just say that. All right, so what we're going to do is jump straight down to features right here in subscriptions. Now, again, if you haven't signed your paid apps agreement, you might not have or see these things. Now, first thing we're going to do is set up our subscription group. Now, subscription group is essentially a collection of subscription products, and the user can only be signed up to one of those subscriptions in the group, and they can change between them at any point. So usually we'll define a subscription group as a level of access. Let's say all access, and inside we'll put different interval options like yearly or monthly. So let's create our subscription group, and we're going to call it Pro. That's sufficient for now. What we have to do now is add the subscription products to be in this group. We're going to add yearly and monthly, and we also need to add some App Store localization for the name of this subscription group. So I'm going to go ahead and do this first because we can't get away from doing this. We're going to have to do this at some point. Now, it's always a good idea to open up these little bubbles because oftentimes it tells you whether it's going to be public facing or maybe just internal facing for your reporting purposes. So this one is going to be shown. So what we're going to do is give this a name. I'm going to call it. Now down here, we're going to be able to specify the app name associated with this subscription. So I'm going to use custom name. I'll say CWC Meditate. The reason it's a duplicate and the reason I'm not just using the app name is because oftentimes in the metadata of the app, you might want to put keywords or something in here, or maybe CWC Meditate, the calmest app in the App Store. You don't want that to be shown in this subscription screen for the user. So by using this custom name, I can specify any app name I want, but this is what is going to be shown in the subscription settings for the user. So this image shows you where the subscription display group name is going to be, as well as the app name. Okay, let's go ahead and hit create. And with that being done, we are going to hit create right here to create our subscription products. Now, these are the things that people are actually going to buy. This reference name is going to be internal. It's going to be for your reporting. And then this second field is going to be an identifier for your product. Now, keep in mind that this identifier that you put for this product is going to be across your entire account. So once you create a subscription product with this product ID, you're not going to be able to reuse that for another subscription product. So RevenueCat actually has some guidance here in their documentation for, as a best practice for what to put here. So I'm going to quickly pull that up. All right, so here they recommend for the reference name, because this appears in your reporting, you're going to have the duration or the name, and you're going to have the price, and then you're going to have if there's any sort of free trial period. So for this one, I'm going to put annual, and put that, and no introductory period. And for the product ID, they recommend this sort of identifier. So let's break that down. Okay, so there's the app underscore price in cents, underscore duration, underscore intro duration, and intro price. So I'm not going to have intro duration or intro price. We're just going to have app price and duration. So this one is going to be, I guess, CWCM. Let's just say that. Price is going to be $9.99, and this is going to be 1 year for the duration. So this, just from looking at this product ID, I can sort of tell what that product is. So let's go ahead and hit create. And then it's going to bring me in to configure a couple more options here. So I'm going to have to select the duration because it doesn't know just from the reference name. So I'm going to have to select 1 year right there. And we're going to have to add pricing, and we're also going to have to add localized names for this particular product. So let's add the pricing first. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose that. And you can price it differently per region if you'd like. If not, I'm just going to go with their conversion rates. Hit confirm. And then for App Store localization, we will add the name. Now, again, they have they have some guidance here as well, RevenueCat. So let's bring up their documentation. And they recommend here, let's scroll down right here. Let's see. We recommend using the same subscription display name for all your products that unlock the same level of access. So whether it is a monthly subscription or a yearly subscription, we are going to go by the level of access it unlocks. So let's call this all access. We're going to put that there as well. Okay, and the last thing you have to do, and I don't actually know if you have to do this anymore, but back then you had to submit your subscription products for review. And in order to do that, you had to have a screenshot and put in some review notes, even though your app wasn't ready to be submitted. Nowadays, they say that your first subscription must be submitted with a new app version. So you're not going to hit submit for review on these in-app purchases until you're actually submitting the entire app for review. So in the past, you'd have to, just for testing, submit it for review anyways, and you'd have to include a screenshot. So I'm going to include a screenshot anyways. What I created was a placeholder. It's just an empty image. They have recommended sizing here. Oops, I'll use the screenshot. It won't be displayed in the App Store. So down here, the dimensions, 640 by 920, image of whatever you want. Before you actually submit it for review, obviously you're going to want a picture of this against your actual paywall in your app. But for now, for testing purposes, we are going to put a random screenshot, well, a placeholder screenshot of nothing. So you could create this blank image in, Photoshop or Canva or Figma or whatever it may be. I'm just going to do that and we'll hit save. Okay, and then now we are going to repeat the same thing for the monthly version. So I'll say monthly. Oops. And this will be CWCM, like that, 1 month. So we'll speed this part up because it's exactly the same as for when we did the annual. All right, so now we've created our subscription group. Inside there are 2 subscription products, annual and monthly, and they have these product IDs. We're going to want to keep track of these product IDs because that is how RevenueCat is going to identify these products and pull the information from App Store Connect. But in order for RevenueCat to have that communication with App Store Connect, there is one thing that we need to set up, and that is going to be here. Under subscriptions, you have this app specific shared secret, and we are going to hit manage to open up the window. You're going to hit generate, and then you are going to copy this shared secret. Hit done. And we're going to go back to RevenueCat, and in the project settings, if you click on your app and you look at your project settings here, you can paste it into this field, set secret. All right, and that is what RevenueCat needs to communicate with App Store Connect. Okay, back in RevenueCat, we are going to set up our entitlements. Now, this is very easy to understand. Just think of it like different tiers of your membership that you typically see in other SaaS products. By setting up these entitlements, you will be able to check later from within Xcode what level of access the user has, and then unlock whatever content in your app. So with our demo app, we're just going to have one level of access, which is either free, which is no access, or paid, which is sort of an all access. So I'll call this Pro as the identifier for this entitlement, and I will say it's all access. You'll notice that it says 0 products here. What we need to do is draw the connection from the products that we configured in App Store Connect to this specific entitlement so that when the user buys those products, we know that it is going to unlock this pro entitlement that we just set up. So if you click on this 0 products, you're going to be drilling into this entitlement, and you're going to be able to attach the products you want that would unlock this. However, you'll find that you have nothing here to attach, because what we need to do, like I said before, is if you go back into App Store Connect and look at the subscription products that you set up, we need to tell RevenueCat that these are the product IDs that we have set up. So we have an entitlement. Now we need to go into products, and we need to add the 2 products that we added here, and we reference them by ID. So let's go ahead and start with the annual one. Let's copy that product ID, and under products here, let's click new. We're going to paste that in there, and we're going to choose this app that we're adding it to. Let's do this with the second one. This is the monthly product. So we're going to hit new, and again, we're going to select this app. If we had multiple platforms for this project, we would see, App Store or Play Store or whatever, but we only have App Store right here. So let's go ahead and click add. Now you'll see, even if we refresh it, the products are not connected to any entitlements. What we're going to do is go back to entitlements, click 0 products, and then attach those 2 products, which we just added. Now RevenueCat knows that when these products are purchased, it's going to unlock the pro entitlement. And if we go back to products and we refresh the screen, you're going to see that these are connected to a single entitlement. Okay, now that we have added the products to RevenueCat, we need to decide how we're going to offer them to the user. And this is where offerings come in. Now, each offering is essentially a group of App Store Connect products that we want to present to the user. For example, you might want to create an everyday offering, which contains your monthly and annual subscription. And you might also want to create another offering, which contains your special Black Friday priced monthly and annual subscriptions. And obviously, you're going to have to create those Black Friday products inside your App Store Connect. Furthermore, another offering you might have is maybe for returning users, so that you can present them with a specially priced product that will entice them to rejoin. Having these 3 different offerings set up inside your app, you can have logic that decides to present which offer to the user depending on different situations. Furthermore, inside the RevenueCat dashboard, you can change which offering is going to be the current or default offering. And so you're able to change what gets presented to the user without submitting new app updates, which is really powerful. There's also another feature that helps multi-platform apps. Inside an offering, you have packages, and inside each package, it contains the equivalent product across platforms. This way, no matter what platform your app is running on, you can access the same offerings and present the appropriate products to the user. Don't worry, when you present that offering, RevenueCat will know which platform the user is on and present the appropriate product for that platform. So let's go ahead and click on offerings right here, and we're going to click on new, and we're going to create, let's just call this default. Sure. Default offering. And there are 0 packages in here right now. So we are going to create the annual package first. We're going to change the identifier to annual, and these identifiers right here, these are sort of like commonly used ones. So there are these options that you can select. However, if it's a custom one, you can set your own identifier. We're going to go with a custom one because these are pretty custom. So we're going to go with a standard identifier because this is sort of a standard duration and charging interval. Let's call this the annual subscription. Now, inside this package, we are going to add our yearly product, right? And if we had an Android version of this app, we would also include that annual product in this package as well. So far this package has 0 products. Let's go into it and attach our one. See, this is why those reference IDs matter, right? Because I can tell right off the bat that this is my annual product. We're going to drill back out and we are going to add another package. I'm going to click 0 products, attach. This one, 1M. Great. Now we're going to go into Xcode and add the RevenueCat SDK. Now back in our Xcode project, we are going to add the RevenueCat SDK, and we're going to start by pulling up the documentation. So again, this quick start is so helpful. We're going to go under iOS installation, and there's going to be a couple of different ways we can do this. We are going to do it via Swift Package Manager. So let's go ahead and copy this repository URL. And here we are going to go to the project settings. We are going to go to package dependencies, and we're going to hit this plus. So always don't get confused with the plus down here. It's this one right here. And we are going to paste it into there, and then just go ahead and add the package. And while that happens, let's take a look at a couple of next steps. So after we do that, we have to import the RevenueCat framework. I can't access that, but essentially we need to write this import statement wherever we want to use the RevenueCat libraries, and we have to enable in-app purchase capability for the project. So I forgot to do this when I first did this, and it wasn't able to work. So make sure we do this in our Xcode project. And then after these 2 simple steps, the SDK is in our Xcode project. So let's check if that's done. Okay, we're going to add the package. Great. Now we are going to go under, we're going to click targets, signing in capabilities, and we are going to add in-app purchase capabilities. Now it's not this plus icon right here. It's this one up here. I'm going to hit plus. We're going to search for in-app purchase. There we go. Let's go ahead and add that. That should be fine. And then we're going to go into here, our app entry point, and we're going to import RevenueCat framework. And let's go take a look at configuring our instance. So again, let's start from the quick start because that's always the first place. So we were, sorry, I lost my place here. We were right here, install the SDK. So we just did that. That was easy, 2 steps. Configuring the SDKs, we only need to do this once. And essentially, we just need to initialize it with our API key, because that's going to point to our dashboard or our project right here. So you're going to find the API key under API keys. So we're going to grab that. But first of all, let's grab these 2 lines. The first line is setting the log level to debug, which means that we're going to see any errors here in our console, which is going to be really helpful because sometimes you're trying to retrieve products from App Store Connect and RevenueCat isn't able to talk to App Store Connect, and you're going to wonder why. Well, that stuff is going to show up here, and you're going to get helpful hints as well in here. All right, so where are we going to put that code? Because in this documentation, we don't have this did finish launching with options. The best place to put it for the SwiftUI app would be in an init method. So we're going to just put it right there. So log level is set to debug, and we're going to put in our API key right there. So let's hop over to our dashboard, and then under public app specific API keys, that is the one we're going to copy. Okay, so I'm going to paste that right over there. Now the next thing we need to do is to display the products on the paywall. So let's go over to the paywall here and take a look at what we have. So right here we have a static button that currently does nothing, and it's got a label that says text join meditate plus. If we go back to the dashboard, or actually let's go back to the quick start, that is the next step. You can easily display your products with this simple call, purchases.shared. This is getting you the shared instance of the purchase object, and then you are going to call get offerings method, and that's going to return to you all the offerings that you have configured in here. So just to remind ourselves, we have one offering, and inside there are two packages, annual and monthly. So that's what we're going to try to grab. Also, notice that this says current. This is going to allow us to very easily grab this offering. If we had multiple offerings, you are able to choose which one you want to make the current offering. You'll see that in action in a second. So let's go ahead and try this out. What we're going to do first inside this paywall is import RevenueCat. And what I'm going to do is create a state property here for the current offering. And this is going to be set to nil because initially I won't have the offering. And then what I'm going to do here is on appear of the paywall, I'm going to fetch the offerings. So this is going to be purchases.shared.get offerings. So there are two parameters in the completion handler. So there's the actual offerings, and there is error. So I can say if let current offering, let's say offer equals offerings.current, and error is nil. So that means if there were no errors and I am able to fetch the offerings, I am going to look for the current offering. So if you take a look at here, this quick help current offering configured in the RevenueCat dashboard, this is going to grab this offering. Now it doesn't really matter because I only have one, but like I said, if you had multiple offerings, you can mark one of them as current, and then you can easily access that specific offering with this property right here. It doesn't mean you can't access the other offerings, you can. It's just that this is an easy way to grab the one that is marked current, because you can always grab the one via identifier, like whichever one you want. So I'm going to put, I'm going to grab the current offering, and then in here, I'm going to set the current offering equal to the offer. And then inside here, instead of having a static button, I can do a quick check. If current offering is not nil, like if we're able to grab the current offering from RevenueCat, then I am going to dynamically generate my buttons, one button for each package, right? Because for this offering, I have two packages, annual and monthly. I want to display a button for each of them. So that's why I am going to probably have a for each right here. And I am going to loop through current offering dot available packages. So this is an array of package. This is another class which has different properties for us to look into our packages and displays things like prices and titles. Okay, so I'm going to put this in here. And then the text, let's just try to display, let's see. So I'm going to force and wrap it here because we've already checked that it's not nil. Okay, so then in here, I want to change the label of my button to the package details. So inside the package details, you can access things like, let me just show you. You can access the store product. This represents the product that you configured in App Store Connect. And inside here, you can access things like the price, the title of the product, as well as for your subscription, different details about the subscription, like the numerical part of it. So is it like every 1 week or every 2 week or every 3 week, that numerical portion? That's under value as an int. And also the unit of recurrence. So is it like does it recur every week, every month, every year? And that's under unit. Now this one is an enum. I believe it's not a string. So you're going to have to manipulate this a little bit. And what I'm going to do instead is look at the sample project that RevenueCat has provided. Again, this will be linked to in the description below. I have a magic weather SwiftUI demo app. And in this project, I saw a really handy extension where it forms these strings that you need. So for example, I showed you the unit, right? So here there's a switch on the unit. So if it's a day, if it's week, then it returns this string. So I don't have to build it myself. So I'm going to actually borrow this extension file and I'm going to put it into my own project and use it. So I'm going to create a new group. I'm going to call it helpers. Put it right there. And I'm just going to drag it across and copy it. Now, this project, this sample project, I will link to in the description below, but you'll find links to this everywhere from the documentation. So it shouldn't be hard to find. Okay, so what this gives me is an extension on subscription period where I can just access this property called duration title, and it's going to give me this, or perhaps I should do period title actually, because this contains the value as well as the, 1 day or 1 week. It contains the unit title as well. So back in my paywall, I no longer have to build it myself. I can say period title, and that's going to be fine. It's going to be great. And now I'm going to force unwrap that because these are all subscriptions. And then I'm also going to put the price. So the price, I don't need the extension. It's just going to be localized price string. So let's give this a run in the simulator and see if it can actually pull down the products. I would keep an eye on down here because there sometimes is a red exclamation mark telling you there's an error if you aren't able to see the products. So let's launch our paywall. Great. So we actually see our products that we configured through App Store Connect. What's happening is that our app is connecting to RevenueCat, and then RevenueCat is fetching the products from App Store Connect and giving it back to us. So this works out great. Sometimes if you don't see anything here and it's not able to fetch the products, it will tell you in here what is wrong, and it will also try to give you some suggestions and hints. And in many cases, it will even give you a URL to a blog post to try to troubleshoot why RevenueCat isn't able to fetch the products. All right, now that we have our products displayed, let's allow people to purchase it. So we're going to go back to the QuickStart, and this is so simple. This is a couple of lines of code. Purchases.share, just like last time, but this time we're calling purchase, and we're passing in the package to buy. And basically that's it. So I'm going to copy this code snippet. We're going to come back in here, and inside buy, we are going to just paste that. And we are going to change a little bit here because we named it PKG. So if they click this button, they are buying that package, right? And then in here, it is just going to check if the entitlements, if a specific entitlement is active, then we're going to unlock the pro content. So if we go back to our RevenueCat dashboard, the entitlements, the identifier that we put is pro. All right, so that's what I'm going to put in here. Now inside their demo app, they have actually checked for, there are some good practices here to make note of. They're actually checking if user has not canceled it, because sometimes you can bring up the purchase screen and then cancel it, right? So if the user has not canceled it and there are no errors, then proceed. But in the quick doc code, it doesn't check for either of these things. It just checks if the customer has the entitlement. And you can argue that whether or not the purchase went through, all we really care about is, does the user have the entitlement? Are they entitled to that locked content? So I guess you could lean either way, but something else I want to point out is they have this state variable called isPurchasing, and this basically throws up a screen. Where is it here? Yeah, this overlay right here. So that variable flips up this overlay so that when the purchase is happening, the user cannot interact with the UI. You can see here, right? And then only after the user cancels it or finishes the transaction do they remove that overlay so the user can interact again. So that, I think, is probably a good idea so that the user can't just keep, tapping the buy button multiple times. So I'm going to leave that as an exercise for you to implement or look in their demo app. For now, this code here is all that's needed for the user to make a purchase. Now we need to make sure that when the user has unlocked the Pro entitlement, that immediately gives the user access to all of the content. Because right now in our app, when they tap on a meditation, we are just throwing up the paywall. We're not checking their subscription status, right? So how are we going to check that subscription status? Well, let's go back to the quick doc. And that is really the next piece of code here. And again, it's just one single method, get customer info, which returns a customer info. And then you can check if they have the Pro entitlement. And then obviously unlock everything. Now, one thing to note here is that this is intended to be called multiple times. It doesn't make a network request to RevenueCat all the time. Let me read this part for you. You can use this method whenever you need to get the latest status. It's safe to call repeatedly throughout the lifecycle of your app, and it updates this customer info whenever there's a change to it. This method actually pulls from cache and runs very fast, and it's typical to call this method when deciding which UI to show the user and whenever the user performs an action that requires a certain entitlement level. So don't worry about calling this as often as you need, because oftentimes it's just pulling it from cache. So we are going to create a new user view model as an observable object with a published property for the subscription status. That way, we are going to make this UI dependent on that, so that when that subscription status changes, this UI is going to update automatically. So let me show you how we can implement that. So I'm going to create a new group here. Let's move this right, perhaps right there. It's going to be an observable object with a published property called isSubscription active. So we'll set it to false, and I basically want, when this is initialized, I want to call this method, and we're going to want to check once it returns if they have the Pro entitlement. So if active is true, then we are going to set isSubscription status to true, right? But, I guess we could shorten this. Wait, let's see. We can shorten this if we say, we just do that. Okay, so this is going to be set to true if Pro is active. It's not enough to just check if it's nil or not, because this could be false, right? Is active could be false. So you actually do want to check if it's equal to true. All right, so we're going to do that. And then inside here, we are going to create it as we're going to create a new instance of that. User view model equals new user view model. And we're going to pass it in as an environment object. So that way inside content view, there's two things that we want to change. We want to change if this subscription is active, we don't want to show this sign up prompt. And the other thing is that if the subscription is active, when they click on this, we don't want to show the paywall. All right, so one thing at a time here. That little call to action banner is right here, this Z stack right here. So we are going to check this, is subscription active? And if we make the view code dependent on this published property, as soon as this changes, it's going to, flip this on or off. So up here, let's get access to that user view model. Right now I can write code that is dependent on that published property. If it's not active, right? So if they don't have an active subscription, then I want to show this, call to action to sign up. The other thing is that for the meditations, each of those cards is a button. When they tap on it, I again want to make sure that if user view model is subscription active. So if they have an active subscription, then show meditation, I guess. Now we're not going to actually implement that because that's not really the purpose of this demo. However, if the subscription is not active, then we are going to present the paywall. So let's see how this works because, okay. So I'm going to set a breakpoint right here. And this is going to run as soon as the app launches. We're going to be able to check that. Okay, so right here, the app launches, it's checking it. Let's just step over that. Is subscription active? And it's false, which is true because they don't have a active subscription. So we still see that. And when they tap on this, it still launches this. Okay, so now when the user buys something, how do we flip this switch? We are going to go back to the paywall at the top. Environment object again, we need access to that user view model. And then here, when the user hits buy and they have purchased it, or they might have canceled it, or it might have errored out, either way, we are going to check if the user has this entitlement. So that's really all we care about. And if they do, we are going to say user view model dot is subscription active is true. We're going to flip that switch, and immediately the view code that depends on this published property, such as right here in the content view, that CTA to sign up and this, these buttons, that will immediately change. So that's how we're going to get things to immediately change. The other thing we want to do as soon as this is successful is we want to dismiss the paywall. And I've already set this up so we pass through the Boolean that controls that paywall showing or not, and we're going to just flip this to false. Is paywall presented? Is false. All right. Okay, so one more thing to do now that you know how to detect the subscription status. In the profile view, we can do a couple of things here. So again, we are just going to get access to that environment variable. And then inside here, instead of free, we are going to detect the status of user view model dot is subscription active. If it is, then we'll say pro. If it's, sorry, it's not a colon here, it's question mark, pro. And here we're going to say, if it's false, then we're going to say free. And for restoring purchases, this is actually very simple as well. So if we go back to the quick help documentation, see, we're just following this step for step. In here, it's just another single method called restore purchases. And this, we should be used to this by now, right? It is essentially, we get the, right? We have the customer info, right? So, oh, we can't find purchases in scope because I have to import RevenueCat. All right, down here. So we're just going to set user view model dot is subscription active is equal to that. That's literally a couple of lines of code. So easy to do. Okay, now we want to test this. So we actually have to go back to App Store Connect and we have to set up some test users. Now, you need a device. So first of all, you can't test the actual purchasing through the simulator. Next thing you want to do is actually test it using a dummy sandbox user. So we're going to go under sandbox users here. So in here, I've already set up a sandbox tester, but what you can do is hit this plus icon. So just fill in all the information here, choose an App Store country that your app is actually available in. Remember the password though, because you're actually going to need to log in with this email and password on the device when you make the purchase. And then hit invite and you're good for this part. Next, what you want to do is plug in your phone because we're going to be running this on our phone. But before you do that, one thing is that the sandbox tester that you just added, you want to add that as a tester to your App Store app on your phone. So go into the settings of your phone. And then you're going to go under App Store. And then if you scroll down, you're going to see Sandbox account. So I've already signed in with the Sandbox tester account that I created, but what you're going to do is just tap on that and then sign in with the Sandbox tester that you had just created. Okay, now we are going to go back to Xcode. We're going to run the app on our phone. Now, sometimes if you get stuck here, just getting your phone to connect and getting the app to be able to run on the phone, make sure that sometimes you need to restart your phone. I've had to do that. Restart Xcode, restart your computer. Make sure that you have the latest version of Xcode, or at least that the iOS version matches the iPhone version that you have on your device. So all of those things matter. If you are able to run your app on the device, great. So you're going to see something like this. And what we're going to do is tap on Paywall. So actually, let's just flip here. Okay, so I'm going to tap on the paywall and I'm going to buy something. So let's hit 1 month. So here under the details, you can see for testing purposes only, you will not be charged for confirming this purchase. Just make sure that the account is your Sandbox tester account. I'm going to go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to type in my password. I'm going to hit sign in. All right, so that's done. And we'll make sure that this works. You wait a little while. Okay. So now you can see that the call to action is gone. And now when I tap on one of these meditation cards, the paywall doesn't come up and nothing happens because we didn't actually program the buttons to do anything if they have a subscription. And now if I go to the account tab, see it's pro. If I hit restore purchases, nothing goes wrong. I'm still subscribed. And the reason why you want to use a Sandbox tester account is because you can actually go back to App Store Connect and you can delete that purchase. You can also do other things with it, such as play with the subscription renewal rate. So it's going to be simulating a month per every 5 minutes. And this is going to allow you to test what happens when, the next month rolls around without having to actually wait 30 days. You can reset purchases and so on and so forth. And also, if you go back to the RevenueCat dashboard, let's go to overview, you'll see that if you flip the switch to Sandbox data, you'll actually see that just happened. And then from these transactions here, you can see that I tested the same thing about 9 hours ago. And each of these transactions, they happen 5 minutes apart because that is the monthly renewal rate and it's simulated for 5 minutes. And you can see that this checkbox indicates that that is a renewal. If you're interested to see more RevenueCat tutorials, make sure you drop a comment below and also check out the playlist above for more in-depth RevenueCat tutorials like how to decipher the charts, how to do single in-app purchases, and more. And if you want to see future RevenueCat tutorials, make sure you comment below and let us know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.